I can't believe it, but my best friend's husband just confessed his love for me, and now my whole world is turned upside down. Let me take you back to how this all started, because trust me, I didn't see it coming. So, I'm in my late 20s, living in this chaotic yet exciting city where every day feels like a new adventure. My life is pretty great. I have a job I love and an amazing circle of friends who are more like family to me. But there's one person who's been my rock through it all. Sarah, my best friend since college. We've been through everything together. Endless study nights, heartbreaks, and epic road trips that always ended up with hilarious stories to tell. Sarah's always been the sister I never had. We share everything, or at least I thought we did. She met Mark, her now husband, a couple of years ago. Honestly, he seemed like the perfect guy. Always around for a good time, charming in that effortless way, and he just fit right into our group. We all loved him, at least until things got complicated. I thought I knew everything about my friends, but it turns out I was in for a surprise that would shake the very foundation of our friendship. And it all started with one unexpected confession that I still can't wrap my head around. To really understand the chaos that unfolded, you have to know a bit about my friendship with Sarah. We met during our first week of college, bonding over our shared love of indie music and late-night ice cream runs. From that moment on, we were inseparable. We were like those cliché best friends you see in movies, finishing each other's sentences and always having each other's backs. Sarah is the kind of friend who would drop everything to be there for you. We've shared so many moments, from the mundane to the monumental. She was there when I got my first job offer and when I went through a rough breakup. In return, I was her maid of honour, standing by her side as she married the love of her life, Mark. Now, Mark seemed like a dream come true for Sarah. He was smart, funny, and had this way of making everyone feel comfortable around him. He quickly became part of our inner circle, and it felt like he had always been there. We'd have these amazing group hangouts, think weekend barbecues and spontaneous road trips. Life felt perfect, or so I thought. Our little group was tight-knit, and I never imagined anything could disrupt the harmony we had. But looking back, maybe there were signs I missed, like the way Mark would sometimes linger a bit too long in conversations with me, or how he seemed to gravitate towards me at parties. At the time, I just brushed it off as him being friendly. After all, he was Sarah's husband, and I never imagined there could be anything more to it. Little did I know, the dynamics of our friendship were about to change in ways I could never have predicted. What started off as an ordinary friendship was about to take a turn that would test everything I believed about trust and loyalty. One random Tuesday night, I was curled up on my couch binge-watching my favourite series when my phone buzzed with a message. It was from Mark, which was unusual because we rarely texted one-on-one. The message read, "Hey, can we meet up? I really need to talk to you about something important." My first thought was that something might be wrong with Sarah. I felt a pang of anxiety, but agreed to meet him at a nearby coffee shop. As I sat there waiting, my mind raced through all the possibilities. Was Sarah okay? Was there something they needed help with? The last thing I expected was what actually happened. Mark walked in, looking a bit more serious than usual. We exchanged the usual pleasantries, and I asked him outright if everything was okay with Sarah. He hesitated, took a deep breath, and then dropped the bombshell. "I've been wanting to tell you this for a while, but I didn't know how. I have feelings for you. I think I'm in love with you." I was stunned. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My mind went blank, and all I could do was stare at him, trying to process what he had just said. This was Mark, Sarah's husband, one of my closest friends. How could this be happening? I finally managed to sputter out, "What about Sarah? You're married to my best friend." He looked pained, as if he was struggling with the situation just as much as I was. He explained that he had fallen for me over time and couldn't keep it bottled up any longer. He assured me that he hadn't acted on his feelings, but the confession alone was enough to send my world spinning. I told him as gently but firmly as I could that nothing could ever happen between us. My loyalty was to Sarah, and this was a line I would never cross. I left the coffee shop feeling shaken, confused, and overwhelmingly guilty, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. The whole ride home, my thoughts were a jumbled mess. How would I face Sarah after this? Should I tell her? Would she even believe me? I wished it was all just a bad dream that I'd wake up from, but deep down, I knew things would never be the same. This revelation was the beginning of a storm, and I had no idea how to navigate through it without losing the people I cared about most. After that bombshell of a confession, I spent the next few days in a haze, replaying the conversation over and over in my mind. I felt like I was living in some twisted reality where nothing made sense anymore. I couldn't eat, couldn't focus at work, and every time my phone buzzed, my heart skipped a beat, terrified it might be another message from Mark. I decided the best course of action was to distance myself from both Mark and Sarah, at least until I could figure out what to do. I avoided group hangouts and made excuses whenever Sarah suggested meeting up. It was painful because all I wanted was to talk to her, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. The fear of losing her friendship was paralyzing. In the meantime, I kept hoping that Mark's confession had been a momentary lapse in judgment and that things would somehow go back to normal. But deep down, I knew that was wishful thinking. There was no way to unhear what he'd said, and pretending otherwise felt like a betrayal to Sarah. One afternoon, as I was trying to distract myself with errands, my phone rang. It was Sarah. I hesitated, then answered, trying to sound as normal as possible. She immediately picked up on my nervousness and asked if everything was okay. I wanted to tell her then and there, but fear held me back. Instead, I mumbled something about being busy and promised we'd catch up soon. Hanging up, I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. Here was my best friend, sensing something was off, and I was lying to her face. It was eating me up inside, but I couldn't bear the thought of the truth tearing us apart. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized I couldn't keep this up forever. Sooner or later, I'd have to confront the situation head-on. But how do you tell your best friend that her husband is in love with you without shattering her world? It felt like an impossible choice, one I wasn't prepared to make. Yet, I knew that doing nothing was only delaying the inevitable, and the longer I waited, the worse it could get. Just as I was trying to find a way to handle the situation, life decided to take matters into its own chaotic hands. Out of the blue, Sarah showed up at my apartment one evening. Her expression was a mix of determination and something else. Anger, maybe? My heart dropped. I knew this wasn't a casual visit. Without much preamble, she confronted me. "I need to know the truth," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Mark told me everything." My heart started pounding. Everything? What did he tell her exactly? I was about to find out. She continued, eyes brimming with hurt and confusion. "He said he has feelings for you and that you've been encouraging him. Is that true?" Her words were like a punch to the gut. Encouraging him? That was a lie, and it stung deeply to hear it. I felt a surge of emotions. Anger, betrayal, despair. But mostly, I felt the urgency to explain. "Sarah, I swear to you, I never encouraged anything. I was shocked when he told me. I didn't know how to tell you without hurting you." Sarah's eyes searched mine, looking for any sign of deceit. I could see her internal struggle, wanting to believe me, but grappling with the betrayal she felt from Mark's confession. She told me how Mark had come clean to her, painting a picture where I was somehow complicit in his feelings. I explained the situation as best as I could, detailing my shock and the steps I took to distance myself afterward. It was a raw, emotional conversation, with tears and frustration spilling over. It hurt to see my best friend in pain, especially knowing that I was caught in the middle of it all. Despite my explanations, there was a lingering doubt in Sarah's eyes, and it killed me. Our friendship, once so solid and unshakable, was now on shaky ground. She left that night without any resolution, just a promise that she needed time to think. In the days that followed, the tension was palpable. Our group of friends sensed something was amiss, but I had neither the heart nor the clarity to explain. I felt isolated, trapped in a situation that seemed to have no right answer. My friendship with Sarah felt like it was hanging by a thread, and I didn't know how to mend it without losing her trust completely. The fallout was more devastating than I could have imagined. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash, knowing you're powerless to stop it. I realized that no matter what happened next, things would never be the same, and I had to come to terms with that heartbreaking reality. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, I stumbled upon something that changed everything. It happened during one of those rare moments when I was trying to regain a sense of normalcy, catching up with another friend from our group, Lisa. We met for coffee, and after some casual small talk, she brought up a topic that made my heart stop. "You know, Mark's been acting really strange lately," Lisa said, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. "He told me something weird the other night when we were at a friend's party." I braced myself, unsure if I wanted to hear what came next. Lisa continued, "He said he's been having feelings for someone else in the group. I thought he was talking about you, given everything that's happened. But then he mentioned he also told Emily the same thing." My eyes widened in disbelief. Emily? Another friend in our circle? It was like the floor dropped out from under me. Could Mark really be confessing his feelings to multiple people in our group? The implications were staggering, and suddenly his confession to me seemed less about genuine feelings and more about some twisted game he was playing. This revelation threw everything into a new light. It wasn't just about me or even Sarah anymore. It was about Mark's manipulative behaviour affecting us all. The realisation filled me with a mix of relief and anger. Relief that maybe Sarah would see that I wasn't the sole focus of Mark's misplaced affections, and anger at the chaos he was causing among friends who trusted him. I knew I had to tell Sarah about this, even if it meant dredging up more pain. She deserved to know the full extent of Mark's actions. But how to approach it without making things worse was the real challenge. I left the cafe with a heavy heart, knowing I had to act quickly before more damage was done. This twist was unexpected, but it gave me a new perspective on the situation. It was no longer just about defending myself. It was about protecting my friends from getting hurt by someone who seemed to have no regard for the trust we all placed in him. Armed with the newfound information about Mark's behaviour, I knew I had to have another heart-to-heart with Sarah. It was a daunting prospect, but I was determined to clear the air and, hopefully, salvage our friendship. I reached out to her, and she agreed to meet at a quiet park where we often went to talk things through. As we sat on a bench under the shade of an old oak tree, I could see the weariness in her eyes. It was clear she had been through the ringer, and I hated that I was part of the reason for her pain. With a deep breath, I began to explain everything I had learned from Lisa. "Sarah, there's something you need to know about Mark," I started, choosing my words carefully. "He's been telling Emily and possibly others the same thing he told you about me. It's not just us caught in this mess." Her face shifted from confusion to a dawning realization. The truth was sinking in, and I could see her grappling with the implications. I told her how I discovered this through Lisa, and how it seemed that Mark's actions were part of a bigger issue, not just a misguided affection for one person. Sarah listened intently, and when I finished, there was a long silence between us. Finally, she spoke, her voice a mix of sadness and clarity. "I can't believe he would do this to all of us. I feel like I don't even know him anymore." In that moment, I saw a flicker of the old Sarah, the strong, decisive person I admired. She thanked me for being honest and for bringing everything to light, even though it was painful. It was a small step, but it felt like we were beginning to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. We talked for a while longer, discussing what this meant for her marriage and our friendship. Sarah admitted she needed time to process everything and decide what her next steps with Mark would be. As for our friendship, she was willing to work on it, recognizing that the real betrayal lay with Mark, not me. As we parted ways that day, I felt a sense of hope. The path to mending our friendship would be long, but at least we were on it together. The ordeal had shown us both the importance of honesty and the strength of true friendship, even when tested by the most unexpected of twists. Reflecting on everything that happened, I realized that this experience, as painful and chaotic as it was, taught me invaluable lessons about friendship, trust, and resilience. Sarah and I are still navigating the complexities of our relationship, but we've come out stronger and more honest with each other. Mark's actions forced us to confront uncomfortable truths, but they also reinforced the importance of communication and transparency. While his betrayal was a harsh reminder of how fragile trust can be, it also highlighted the strength of genuine connections forged over time. As I look ahead, I'm grateful for the support of friends like Sarah, who are willing to face difficult truths and work through them. Our friendship may have been tested, but it has also been reaffirmed, proving that even in the face of unexpected challenges, true bonds can endure and even grow stronger. As I close this chapter, I'm reminded that life's unexpected twists often test our strength and character. What began as a tumultuous ordeal has transformed into a journey of growth and understanding. Sarah and I continue to rebuild and redefine our friendship with newfound depth and honesty. Mark's actions, though disruptive, served as a catalyst for change, pushing us to evaluate what truly matters. Through it all, I've learned the importance of standing firm in my values and the power of communication in healing wounds. This experience has been a poignant reminder that life is unpredictable, and the people we hold dear can sometimes surprise us. But through every challenge, there's an opportunity to emerge wiser and more resilient. As I move forward, I do so with gratitude for the lessons learned and hope for the future, knowing that true friendship can weather any storm.